Welcome to the Movement Boss Podcast. I am Joe McGuire, along with the Movement Boss, Karin Ravalese. Karin, what's going on? Another episode here. We've got some things to talk about, and a very special guest this evening. Someone you've known your entire life, literally. Your sister, who is a dietitian. Registered dietitian.
Mm-hmm.
Is there such a thing as a non?
I think I don't know if they just call like registered dietitians, or they may just say dietitian, but she's definitely a registered dietitian. She's basically has like almost like 20 years just to work in corporate.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, she actually, I'll let her tell you too, but just to let you know, she used to work at Aetna, so she actually provided diet information, type of things for their employees there. So she's been doing this for a long time. She also has a background before she did this. She worked as a in the restaurant. So she was like a sous chef in a restaurant business. And so she's an excellent cook.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great, which makes it even better because, a lot of times people think dietitian, well, what are you going to make me eat cardboard or something like that? And she's so not like that. So
yeah, phenomenal eating, but
definitely.
Smart eating. Here's the interesting part, because we're going to tie a lot of things in tonight. And as we were sort of laying out what this episode was going to be, I was thinking about, we've all been gym people at some point in our lives. And you go to the gym sometimes and you'll see that guy who's jacked. I mean, jacked from head to his thighs. And he's got them little skinny legs. He skips leg day. Right? And you look at it and you kind of laugh because it looks kind of funny because he's not getting a complete workout. And the tie-in I'm actually going to make here is, I was telling you earlier, my mom was trying to lose weight and went on a diet of rice cakes and water. And she lost a lot of weight. Now she's like malnourished and she's been passing out a lot. You cannot go to the other extreme. Okay. We've talked a lot about breathing. We talked about the curious case of former Major League Baseball player Colby Rasmus last week. And I cannot stress this enough as someone who is really literally learning the anatomy from Karin as we do these episodes and we sort of unpack these things. Your ribs start here. When I say ribs, nobody thinks here. People don't think that. And again, you and I talk so much about this stuff, and I've become so much more aware of my body, and we'll talk a little bit about this maybe later on, but sort of bracing when you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All sorts of things, but it's all gonna tie together, and then we're gonna bring on Cheryl, and we're gonna really, really tie it all together. Did you like my analogy about the guy with the skinny legs? Right, that's a guy who is not getting a complete workout, and as great as he looks, he's got those little skinny, weak ass legs.
Mm-hmm. True, and that could be the same thing with the diaphragm because it's a muscle also. And a lot of times we're just not thinking of it like that. We're just expecting it to work for us constantly, nonstop, which it does. It does, right? It has to. But what if you can make it better? And it's so important because it has a lot to do with other things in the body. So it's not just, helping you be better at lifting weights. It also does some other processes in the body. Helps you move blood, circulate things, helps you with your digestion. So,
So many of these things, really, it's like one thing underneath another thing. I mean, the way that your body is laid out, sometimes things start pushing on nerves, things get stuck, and they just, and this is where I think Karin does some of her best work. I've seen her literally turn my friend who looked like a pretzel into a standing up human being in just a few minutes of again, it's how do you do something like that? How do you look at a person like our buddy Matt, who literally was like hunched over in pain from a round of golf? What do you do to loosen that guy up? I mean, I've seen video of it. What were you doing there exactly?
Well, I was, giving him like a corrective exercise. I guess that's probably the best way to talk about it. Based off of what he needed, based off of where he was tight, and not so much where he felt it, but what like I could actually objectively feel as well. So that's pretty much what I did. I gave him a couple quick exercises, and he said he did notice like he wasn't so stiff, or he had a little bit better movement and things like that. So that's really what I'm looking for. I mean, or I started with the perturbation, like kind of like the same thing we did with you.
Yeah.
And just really seeing like what's going on with that person in that moment, because things can change. Like I can just use myself as an example. There's been times when I've done stuff. I don't always have the same pattern all the time type of thing. You're moving, you're doing things. You might clean up something, right? You might like say one day your right side is bothering you and you're working on your right and you're kind of like getting things more closer to normal. And then maybe the left side starts to bother you. So it's just, we're moving around all the time. We're doing things, we're involved in our life. Then we have stress. Sometimes we throw stress into the mix.
My goodness.
So it's like when you throw stress into the mix, sometimes it's almost like, you can be doing all the right things, but sometimes it just makes it a lot more harder. And we talked a lot about intra-abdominal pressure building and the ability to be able to like take a nice inhale, exhale, manage that, budget that correctly. It makes it a lot harder to do that when you're stressed. So, it's just, you just try to do the best you can, we're
it's funny. We were talking about, and I had said to you, you see like an otherwise healthy 35, 40-year-old guy drop dead. Could be a number of things, but again, I think a lot of times things are stress related. And, again, if you're not taking your breathing seriously, and if your diet isn't on point, and stress, and even things like grief or all sorts of other emotions, they could really throw you off. And again, in some cases have pretty catastrophic results.
They can, especially if it keeps going on for the long haul, or let's just say, you're prone to like an injury or something, or just things just aren't right from the jump. And then now you add the job you don't like, right? Or maybe you're going through some personal money financial thing, or you're getting a divorce, or or
your boss sucks.
School. Yeah, exactly. That stuff definitely takes a toll on you.
Yeah,
it really does. So it's just, if you're already starting out kind of like wonky, it's like throwing more fire on the kerosene there, or whatever that analogy is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got to bring this up too, because I thought this was kind of funny. Again, you and I before the show, we talk a whole bunch. And one of the things we had talked about was, you were in a situation where you knocked some stuff over at work and you were picking it up. So no one else fell over it.
Today.
And it was actually today.
Okay. It was today. Yep, it was.
And you kind of braced yourself as you again, thinking, I've done this a couple of times. Is this the one? Is this where,
yep.
And so we started talking about that. And again, like we did a few weeks ago, when I discovered sometimes I don't breathe when I'm swinging a golf club because my back's starting to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I hold my breath. It didn't even dawn on me I was doing that until literally I was like, let me show you what I do. Here's me on the 14th hole, Karin. Right. And I do the thing, and I immediately hold my breath, and I'm like, I think I just held my breath. And you were like, do you always do that? And I'm like, God, let me think about that for a minute. Yes,
you do.
Yes, I do.
Because I don't know how we even got into the subject about it, because I think we're just talking and you're like, you know what? I think I do that. And then I'm like, let's see. Let's just see for the heck of it.
Yep.
And then remember we did that. Like I had you hold your breath, and then you were like rock solid. And then I'm like, okay, go ahead and exhale. And then all of a sudden you were like, you couldn't even like hold it. So that was like an indication too that, you might have been, using that as a strategy for yourself, which is kind of common. People do that. I remember even just taking martial arts, and like a lot of times we'd be doing stuff and you'd hear like the instructor, like breathe, like yelling at everybody to breathe and stuff, because people were like holding their breath too. So
Yep.
I think sometimes it's kind of, it's common, or you might take like this big, like, sometimes opening your mouth and doing that sometimes too. Like you just do what you got to do sometimes to get it done.
I'm so much more cognizant of breathing. I think about what I'm doing, and I think, make sure you take a breath here. I was telling you about, I had to take some drawers out. We were taking a dresser apart and out of one of the kids' rooms, and I grabbed two, all haphazard, like I was 25, and I walked them out, brought them downstairs, and I went back up, and I thought, there's 4 more of these. Bend at the knee, take a breath, get down there, and that was how I removed the last 4. And you said, great question, was that instinctual, or was it because we've been talking? And I said, I don't know. Maybe I would have instinctually done it, but would I have thought to talk about it to somebody afterwards, or even recognized that I strategically stopped and was like, no, one of these is going to be a bad one. I got a feeling. So let me just be extra careful. It was, again, what you were doing earlier. I like to think it's just because I've become more cognizant of these things and more aware of these things. And I think you may have figured out by now, I don't like pain.
Oh, yeah.
I try to avoid pain as much as humanly possible. And so, again, being aware of how all of these things work and how it's all connected, it's like, okay, if I'm about to do something, I'm a thinker. I'm an overthinker even. And so,
me too,
I almost hear you in my head, like, make sure you breathe. Okay. Yeah, Karen, I will.
Buddy. Yeah, I'll tell you, Joe, because it can happen. I mean, I catch myself too, because like I had been sitting down. I was at work. I was sitting down. And I got a bunch of boxes over there, and I went to come back around to get back in the chair, and it was like I tripped, like I caught it. And the lady that was next door over there, she couldn't see me, but she's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm good," but it sounded a lot worse than it was, because it really sounded pretty bad. So that's when I said, you know what, let me move the boxes, because I don't want somebody else to like not be so lucky as me. So I remember going down, picking the box up. It was fine. I felt okay. But then I was like, oh, wow, like that's interesting, because I felt it kind of like in the back, but not like too bad. But I was like, ooh, I better watch the next box I pick up, because I don't want to potentially throw out my back, right? And mind you, I've been sitting down, sitting down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay. So I was more cognizant about how I picked up the second box, and thank God for that, because who knows? Like, just because I do this stuff, I mean, nobody's perfect sometimes, you just, I feel like you kind of have to be, you just got to be on top of your game all the time. Like, just consistently doing things, be consistent. You don't have to be all like balls to the wall constantly, right? Because life gets in the way.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Be consistent.
My 23-year-old daughter just got her driver's license.
Okay.
And I've explained to her the key to driving, awareness.
Yeah, that's true.
Just see what's around you. See who's around you. If somebody's aggressively going through an intersection, maybe let them go.
Good advice.
Right?
Yes,
somebody's driving all haphazard. There's a good chance they're going to keep doing it. Just let them.
Yeah.
You're not racing anybody. But I think awareness, and I mean, again, I look at all the walks and runs and all the charity stuff. And what's the word everybody always uses? This is about awareness. And to me, this is, it's funny. I was reading this thing earlier, and it was like, things that we learned in school that are completely useless, like the Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Where has that come into play for you?
Mind if you're an engineer, maybe.
Sure.
Think, right?
Yeah. The 1% of us that are engineers. But no one ever taught you about breathing or how breathing and movement are connected.
No, because
my health teacher in my gym, that never came up.
No.
Right. And so we basically go listen, right? Most people, you're 12, you stop seeing your pediatrician. There could be a gap of 10 or 20 years before you see another health professional.
Yep.
Sadly, in this country, that
Mhm.
happens. I know people who have never been to a doctor, like beyond childhood, and that's terrible. And I just don't think people, right? You brush your teeth every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. You don't drink a lot of sugar, and you're like, I have cavities. What's going on? Do you floss? Do you get a deep cleaning in your mouth every 6 months? No. So you're not doing a complete, you know what I mean? It's as
Mhm.
simple as that, where it's like you're doing a lot of the things and you're doing them well, and there's big holes in your game. Your health is going to suffer.
Mhm. True.
And again, looking at somebody real quick, my buddy Eric, who was watching last week, said, shout out to your friend. She really knows her baseball players. And I was like, she's actually learning and
cool.
just been doing a lot of
Thank you,
research.
Eric.
He loved that you knew all the Rasmus brothers.
Oh, neat.
He thought
Okay,
that was
yeah.
super cool. And also the fact that we talked about Colby Rasmus.
Mhm.
We're going to bring him up
Yeah,
again
well, yeah, for sure.
because he's, again, for baseball fans, okay, Colby Rasmus, if you forget how good he was supposed to be, or even some of the seasons he had that were very good, they thought that guy, he was a 5-tool player, considered generational talent. In other words, should have been one of the best players of the last quarter century. Didn't happen. All sorts of strains and a sneeze gone haywire. It was, again, I feel like by the time of the sneeze, this guy had enough other injuries.
Yeah, he was probably like, what the heck?
That to me, him getting like, oh, he sneezed, now he's hurt. Yeah, that sounds like Colby Rasmus. And it's so sad. But again, I think there's so many holes in what that guy was doing outside of the game and in his rehabilitation that I think it just kept spiraling till he had to step away.
Well, and here's the thing too. Like I said, when I was looking him up, he talked about how he just wasn't feeling it anymore. Like he felt empty. Like all the money and the fame just wasn't doing it for him anymore. And so like I feel like that takes a toll on you too. That's emotion, that's stress, and the diaphragm is huge with that. Also, it has a feedback back to the brain. There's a huge connection between the gut and the brain. And so it's just interesting how when I go back to the hiatal hernia, because of the hiatus of the diaphragm that we talked about last week, and we could talk about it again today because it's going to pertain to how we're going to tie my sister into it. It just really was. It just made me think, wow, did this gentleman maybe have a little bit of a tough time with breathing? Maybe he wasn't breathing as good as he could. So here we had the oblique strain, and then it went into his hip. So there's, if it's almost like a pass the baton type of relationship, or the fourth runner is not going to get the baton until the first one starts, right? So it's the same thing. It's like you take a breath in, the diaphragm's got to kind of drop down, the ribs cage has got to go out a little bit. That's got to kind of stabilize you, help you stabilize your back, your pelvis, the whole Monty. And then when everything kind of feels like it's going good, now you're able to kind of transfer the force, with his batting, his running, all of these things. So, you think about it, just the way we live our life, like we do that. We're going to continue to do it. And this man's a professional baseball player, and he's getting paid for it. And he obviously clearly, wants to do well at it. And he's just pushing himself even more with maybe not having the best optimization. That doesn't mean that he's a failure or he's weak or anything. Maybe he just had a little bit of a leak.
Yep.
That's all.
Interestingly enough, too, I mean, I don't know if you'd be aware of this, Karen, but professional baseball, they report to camp in February, right around Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And the season ends at the end of October.
Oh, okay.
And so when you consider the time, you have limited time off, right? November,
Mm-hmm.
December, January, and then a couple weeks into February, you're getting ready to go back to your job. And this is a 5-6 day a week job. I mean, they play 6 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week, usually for the entire, almost the entire year. And when you're injured, you get sent off on a rehab assignment, which means you get to go down to Florida and your teammates aren't there. It's just coaches and personnel, maybe minor league players,
Mm-hmm.
guys trying to make teams, stuff like that. And I would think it's got to be hard for, again, look at a guy like a Colby Rasmus, or I mentioned Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton. You got to go down there and with a bunch of nobodies, basically get your zazz back, get your rehab in, get some at bats, get yourself ready to get. And I have heard from guys in baseball that process of going through the rehabilitation is grueling. And I look at a guy like Colby Rasmus, who
He's already missing his family, right?
right? So you've already got that going on. You're away from your team. You're a millionaire, a multi-millionaire, and you're down in like some podunk town in Florida by yourself, trying to get your, trying to get your A game going. It's hard. And, Colby Rasmus, Giancarlo Stanton, there's a lot of guys in baseball like this. Steven Strasburg, who we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
have been on those rehab assignments 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times.
That sucks.
The grind of going through that once or twice is like agonizing. The idea of doing it 5 or 6 or 7 times, I could see where a guy would just be like, you know what?
I'm done.
I cannot do this anymore. Especially when, right, it's like finally everything on my right side of my body feels good just in time for the left side to start acting up.
Sure.
Or, again, in the case of Giancarlo Stanton, it's just a constant oblique strain, and he plays great, comes back for a couple months, and you're like, oh, this guy's so good. Oh, checked his swing last night, oblique's a little tight, and you're like, oh, here we go again.
He's an elbow guy, though. He's got 2 of his elbows that are giving him problems.
Where does that come from? I wonder. Elbows. Is that working out? Elbows? I mean,
it just could be what he's pre-positioned to do. But anytime someone tells me both sides of their body, I always think it's a core thing because it's both sides of your body. So it's coming from the center. It's either coming from your back, like intrinsic back, or like your intrinsic core, the sneezing muscles.
So even if you're working the core, you could still get hurt. Is the point here?
But it's also about like what are you doing too? Like what are you doing? Like sometimes, like I can speak to this even for my own personal self because I like to talk about personal things too. It's what do you like? Are you doing something that's helping you or hurting you? Because you could be thinking that you're doing something that's helping you, but you could just keep doing the same repetition on something that is not operating, I guess, if you will, the right way. I mean, I did that. I was doing that. So I think, a lot of us do. And it's just, just trying to find like a little something that you need in that moment just to kind of take some of the tightness off or just.
You just made me think of something funny I need to share just for a moment. I have my real estate license here in Connecticut. I sell a couple of houses a year, nothing big, but I was with a client purchasing a home from a man who was a professional electrician and had owned his business for some 30 years. And I use a home inspector. He's fantastic. This guy's the best. And he's in the guy's electrical box, and he says, this is terrible. This is poorly done. And I said, Bob, the guy that owns the house has been an electrician for 30 years. And without skipping a beat, Bob turned and he went, not a good one. Point being, you could do something for a really long time and not be good at it. That is possible. It happens. So you could be, again, you're doing the workout and maybe someone told you this is how you're supposed to do it. Your cousin Tony, who knows nothing about fitness and nutrition, showed you something. You did it and you're like, yeah, and that's become your new workout. And it's not good for you because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of scenarios where you're doing, again, I mentioned my mom, eating rice cake and water. Am I losing weight? Yes. Am I losing brain cells? I think so. It's not good. The extreme opposite, generally not good either.
They're very true. Very true. You got to have that little balance, right? Sometimes it's hard to have balance.
Balance is key. It really is. I want to talk more about Colby Rasmus. I mean, this guy just, again, I love baseball.
I know you do.
As you know. And you know what? Actually, you just made me think of something that I failed, and we want to start this episode off.
Definitely.
We're gonna end it with this too, but Joe Ravalese, your father, passed away October 15th of 2022, and we wanted to dedicate this episode to him. And it just so happens your sister's on this episode as well.
It does. It does.
And it really coincides with that date. My sympathies to both of you. I could see, I get in talking to you how much you loved your dad.
Definitely. He was great. He died suddenly. And I just want to say, since we are talking about baseball and the whole irony in this whole situation is, obviously my dad's name is Joe, right? You're helping me with the podcast. My father was a diehard Yankees fan. Oh my God. He freaking loved the Yankees. He would not be a happy camper last week.
I feel it. Yeah.
Be flipping out. He'd be like, Mom, I wouldn't even be, he just loved the Yankees. And, so I just want to say that. And he would be kind of thinking to himself, oh, look at those two on there together talking, so, Dad, this is for you. We love you. And I just can't believe it's been 3 years already. I don't know where the time's gone. Tomorrow will officially be 3 years.
Life flies by so fast. Yeah. And, I don't want to upset you or anything. I mean, I know that the pain of loss is something I think for a lot of people you never get over. And I mean, again, right, in talking about stress and grief is another one of those things that could really do damage to you if you're not properly dealing with it. It's important to deal with your emotions, whatever your emotions might be. Again, you talked about anger or frustration and things like that.
Yep,
all of those things can negatively affect you, not only impact your health, but again, when you're doing your workouts, could have an effect on you. So
I want to make sure that you show that video to everyone afterwards. That video that I showed you.
Oh, for sure.
And we can talk more about that. I don't know if she's on yet. Is she on yet?
She's not on yet, which is fine. We'll be talking to. We'll get Cheryl on here in a minute. By the way, speaking of grief, I know we talked about last week the Cove Center for Grieving Children. Might be a good time to plug them again if you are looking for some resources as far as grief is concerned. Cove Center for Grieving Children is an excellent resource.
Hey Joe, she's just texting me right now and saying to send me a link. She said she can't get in. She keeps calling me.
All right.
Let's see if we can get her in. She's like, I'm so sorry I can't get in.
Okay. It happens.
Did it work?
Let's here we go.
Healing heart. Let's see if it goes on.
This is how
I know, because I see my phone's blowing up. I'm like, I'm so glad I saw it.
Okay, thank goodness that you saw it. All right.
Let's see.
All right, there we go. So you could tell her. I did send that to her before. It could also, and I love StreamYard, such a great platform for doing podcasts and live streams.
Allow me to go into it.
Sometimes the invite ends up in your spam folder.
Yeah, she said it won't allow her to go in. It won't allow me to go into it. God, that's so weird.
The link won't let her go into it, huh?
That's what she said. Yeah, I thought I'd try it again. Huh. That's too bad.
Well, that's what happens on a live podcast sometimes. The best laid plans. Well, we'll give her a couple more minutes. You know, well, let's just say if she doesn't get in here, what exactly let's sort of set up what the tie-in is.
Okay.
And if she pops up, we'll bring her in and
okay. Well, want to put that picture up there again, that diaphragm picture? Remember the one we showed last week when we were talking about Colby there?
Yep.
Yeah, the esophagus. See how the esophagus, remember I was talking about the diaphragm how it has 3 holes that run through it? They call them hiatuses.
Right. Yep.
Well, we're going to talk about the esophageal one tonight. And that one, you know, obviously the hiatal hernia, right? So the hiatus, the esophageal hiatus, which the esophagus, for anybody that doesn't know, is your food tube. And also in that hole, that hiatus of the diaphragm, there's also vagus nerves that run through there. So vagus nerve is a cranial nerve. It kind of starts up here. So it goes all the way down to, you know, into your chest, right through the T10 area, like right around where your back is and stuff like that. And that
it's funny you said T10 area. And I was thinking that's in the lower back. Lower to middle part of the back?
More like mid back. And stuff, where a lot of people have tightness, right?
Yep,
okay. Yep. So basically the vagus nerves are responsible for digestion of a lot of these type of organs, like your liver, your spleen, your pancreas, your small intestines, your stomach, some of the certain parts of the colon, not all of them, but certain parts. And so, like, imagine your tight diaphragm, right? It's tight, it's a muscle too. And so you have the esophagus and you have the vagus nerve that go through there. So if that's constricted and tight, that is going to mess with your digestion. Okay. And because for both reasons, right? You got the vagus nerve there and you also have the esophagus that runs through it. So, like, say you're going to see a registered dietitian and you're bloated, you know, your stomach hurts, you have acid reflux, like, you know, things like that. Maybe you're constipated or you got diarrhea, whatever, these different things. And you're going there to see someone for that, which is great, right? But what if it's a biomechanical, like a movement component of your diaphragm and you're not addressing that? Mm-hmm. So that, I mean, that I feel like it should be addressed on both aspects. So the whole point is to be able to create this awareness with people, you know, so they're like, oh, wow, that may be me, you know, and people are exercising, right? You're still playing golf, right? I'm sure there's a lot of people that have maybe indigestion or something. They're like, screw it. I'm just going to take a couple Tums, call it a day. And I'm still going to play golf with my buddies, or I'm still going to play wiffle ball and maybe not think that those things can be related.
I 1,000,000% have been there and definitely and never thought about it.
Yeah, especially if it's an ongoing thing. So, like, this is where it's perfect that her and I, you know, not only are we sisters, right? I mean, we have skills that we can actually put together. And, you know, so that's why I wanted her to come on, because I want her to talk about what she does. And, you know, for her credit, you know, with the actual thoracic diaphragm, we talked about this. A lot of times, some of the strategies for people when they do have this acid reflux or this GERD is to give them these what they call protein pump inhibitors. And these are supposed to be like a short-term strategy. And from what I understand about them is you should take them if you really do have like an acid problem. So my sister, being a registered dietitian, she can talk a little bit more about that. I know she's had experience with helping people, like maybe, you know, that people that didn't maybe want to manage things differently through diet, or maybe you need to go on a medication and you're like, you know what, let me try something different, or to eliminate, you know, maybe coming off it. So this is, again, to try to create the awareness with the movement aspect of stuff. And then now we're going to talk to somebody who can help you from a nutritional, digestive component. So Cheryl, thanks for joining us today.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry I didn't know what the hell I'm doing, and I didn't touch nothing because I feel like I'll get out of the room. I think it's my computer. I got some stuff going on with it.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Are you serious? Come
What are you
on.
saying? No, we're just kidding. Of course
I
we can
can't
hear
hear
you.
her.
You know what?
Oh, you can't hear
What
her,
about
I
right?
was about to scream.
Yep.
Because I'm like, I clearly, I got some problems here. So, hello, thank you. And so
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that very much.
of course, well, thank you for having me. And I apologize for all the messages you're going to see once you get off this show.
Oh
So-
my God.
Yeah. So what's the deal? I came in on the back end, and I'll be honest with you, I need to take a deep breath because I was a little bit stressed. My anxiety went through the roof because I couldn't get on the call. So I really wasn't hearing what you were saying, Karin. I apologize. So why don't you kind of bring me in, and I know
We're talking about the diaphragm, and we're talking about its connections. We're talking about the diaphragm, and we're talking about its connections.
okay.
The actual hiatus of the diaphragm has the esophagus and the vagus nerve that goes through the both of them. And you being this awesome dietitian that you are, registered dietitian that you are, and how you help so many of your patients that have digestive issues, that have a lot of the symptoms that someone who may have a tight diaphragm have as well, as far as bloating, abdominal, discomfort, acid reflux being a really big one, indigestion. We also have the vagus nerve that runs through that same hiatus of the diaphragm. And controls a lot of the digestive function for a lot of these organs like liver, gallbladder, spleen, pancreas, stomach, small intestines. And that's your wheelhouse. That's your wheelhouse. And a lot of, and you might be able to speak to this too, that some of the clients that you're speaking with, maybe they mentioned to you that, they may feel like their neck hurts them, or their shoulder, or, maybe their back is tight and things like that. So, having a diaphragm that's not able to go through its proper ranges of motion can also cause these types of presentations and feelings in people's bodies. So I really like the audience to be able to be aware of this, but I also want them to have a person that they could potentially talk to that can help them with actual nutritional, digestive issues. Because I feel like that's important to address as well.
I will say this: the vagus nerve, biggest nerve in the body, and when it comes to digestion, when it comes to mindset, I know everybody says this, the second gut, your gut is the second brain. I'm sorry, your gut's the second brain, right? It's because what we think, or our thoughts, a lot of times create emotions, and sometimes those emotions can be, very positive emotions, but then sometimes those emotions can be anxious emotions, kind of like what I was experiencing prior trying to get into this call. And it's kind of like the feeling of you ever get excited if you were going to go away on a trip, or maybe you were going to your first time, maybe you're going on a date with somebody and you're getting butterflies in your stomach, and you ever feel like maybe your stomach hurts, right? Sometimes, we think and we associate stress and anxiety with stomach issues, but we can also have overexcitement stimulate stomach issues as well. And to do that on an acute basis once in a while, it's not really a big thing. But somebody that experiences those types of feelings over and over and really has no way to, or no tools to kind of help them to kind of work through that, can cause more issues with chronic conditions like you were mentioning, Karin, with the digestion, right? People may have heard of the term leaky gut. I like to explain leaky gut in a simple term as if you are someone that struggles with kind of maybe always thinking in the future, wanting to control things, and feeling like you can never just do all of that task list, right? Those emotions that you're struggling with and those feelings that maybe you've been struggling with 20 years of your life, after a while, it can cause your gut to secrete things that are going to cause these little holes. I call it like a balloon with a little pin. And each thought is like a pin on your balloon. And inside that balloon is water. And that water spurts out and gets within your body. So think of that balloon as your stomach and the inside of stomach juices. So if those stomach juices are coming out and going in different parts of the gastrointestinal system, which is the largest system in the body, it can cause havoc. In this case, a lower stomach acid. I think that's what I kind of came in the tail end of your discussion, where I know you had mentioned about some different medicines with the protein pump inhibitors. And although they can be really helpful for a short-term period of time, while maybe somebody gets the tools like learning how to breathe properly, which I think is so important, because a lot of people that's struggling with digestive issues, in this case, I'm just using a leaky gut or maybe heartburn, a lot of times it's stemmed from the emotional well-being and the feelings and the way that someone allows themselves to handle that. A highly reactive person, maybe a person that is angry, sometimes, without them knowing, they can develop heartburn, right? And they just, it's, due to the food that I eat or the lack of activity. And then as maybe weight gain happens, the breathing, because it comes inhibited. So digestion, nutrition, the alkalinity or acidity of foods. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can talk to about this, but I think the easiest way to kind of explain it is really thinking of that balloon as being your stomach. And inside that balloon is water. Inside your stomach are different juices. And not only can our emotions or our thoughts be little pins on that balloon, but also medications, right? Different foods that we eat. It's a shame to say now in the United States that our soil is no longer alive in majority of places, unless you're going to farms and other places. But for the most part, our conventional produce is grown in dirt, not soil. Soil is a living thing. Dirt really isn't, right? So we add stuff to it so it can grow. And a lot of times trace minerals and micronutrients that are so needed for proper digestion is no longer there. So that inhibits our breathing. We don't think about it, but it really, really does. I mean, we are positive and negative ions, if any of you took chemistry and struggled like I did, but we're biochemical beings. So I don't want to bore people to death. I can go on forever and ever.
Oh my God, I wish you would never stop talking. You're like blowing
no
my
one's ever
mind
told me that before.
all the things you're saying. Oh my God.
We talk a lot. Me and Joe talk a lot. So for us to be quiet,
I
for
could
a few
almost
minutes,
imagine what your guys' conversations must be like. Holy
no,
smokes.
you don't want to know sometimes.
No, we don't really talk about this. Well, I try to talk to her about it sometimes, and she's like, yeah.
You mentioned certain kinds of foods can be pins in the what sorts of foods specifically are you talking about?
Yeah. So I think everyone is different and unique in their own way. But what I like to use is processed foods, convenient foods, right? Foods that we tend to just eat out of convenience, chips, pretzels, snacks, that type of stuff, foods that really don't come from the earth, that are real foods or that are living animals, right? That's my first easy, I can say, across the board. Convenience foods are generally going to have some kind of, I don't want to say chemical, but some kind of alteration, right? And if a person's stomach is already compromised by the thoughts that they feel, maybe being an angry person, not that I want to say people are angry, but there are highly reactive people to situations, or a very shy person that's maybe anxious from being in crowds. Personality really can affect our digestion. I mean, think about it. Some of those easy examples that I had gave, first date, right? traveling, going away to Disney World, if anyone likes Disney World. I remember being a kid. I think we've all have experienced, or being nervous if you're going to talk in front of people. I think we've all experienced that feeling. But there are people that experience that feeling all the time, and they're unintentionally not even really knowing. And then if it becomes a consistent thing, then what happens, the body's normal, defense mechanism of how it reacts, it can, lose its resilience. And that's why breathing is such a great tool. I wish it was used more as a technique and a tool advised by practitioners in the conventional space, at least, again, that's my opinion, versus, hey, let's just throw you on a medication. Although if someone's really in pain and they can't breathe and they're constantly burping, farting, and having heartburn, they're not going to probably want to breathe. They're going to probably just want to take something to alleviate that, which I understand. But in the interim, diet and a lot of these practices, these functional practices that my sister does, it's pretty amazing. But it's hard. It's hard work, right? It's easier to just take a pill, fix me.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
On my day. I mean, there's days,
Right.
I don't know. If there's a pill to get me to exercise every day, I'd take it, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, too, as far as like taking a pill, though, with that kind of stuff, it's like if you, I'm going to always keep bringing it back to this. I'm not saying that this is always going to be the case, but I still feel like at some level it should be addressed and looked at. Because if you are taking medication, or even if you're not taking medication and you're still working on your digestion, but your diaphragm is still tight and you're still tight around the rib cage, like you're going to make it difficult to get everything still working because you're putting that chokehold on those areas. And we're just talking about the esophagus here. We're not talking about the other two hiatuses that are involved with blood flow, blood pressure management, to your legs, your whole abdominal organs, all of these things. So
can I just interrupt? I just feel like I got to say something, because you say, she says these different languages, but I interpret it and I understand it, and I believe it's very similar, is starts in the mouth immediately, right? The GI tract, and then it goes all the way down, kind of like that esophagus, right? And then it goes into the stomach, and within the stomach, there's a lot of different areas within the stomach, right? And then we have the small intestines, and then we have the large intestines, and then we have the colon. And in the middle is that diaphragm, which houses all of those things. And then you have all the systemic effects of the nerves that's all connected, right? It's kind of like I explain it as a can of like Coca-Cola or like Pepsi, right? If you were to crush that can in the middle, you still have the other sides around it that kind of, I don't know, maybe want to get back to its other shape, right? But you still have that liquid inside of it. And in the case of a carbonated beverages, it's powerful of some sense, right? And that's why it spurs over. And unless you kind of change the functional boundaries that it's within, it's just going to keep seeping out. And that's how people develop, like you may have heard of the term SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or you hear a lot now, everybody's diagnosing themselves with food sensitivities. And again, it's all generated from the gut. And to your point, Karin, about the blood pressure and about the PPIs, medication is good. It's needed for acute reasons. But what I tend to really struggle with is it's never reevaluated. It's like it's given, and then that's what it's just never reevaluated. It's just treating the symptom. It's not getting to the root of what the issue is. That's what Karin really does with her functional techniques. I mean, it really is a collaborative approach if people are open to the nutrition piece and the.
It's definitely a collaborative approach from so many different angles, like even like working with even with doctors, mental health practitioners, because of the diaphragm's huge connection, to the emotional. It's like the emotional muscle, basically. It's another way of looking at it. And then the huge connection between a lot of nutritional deficiencies have a lot of the same similarities of mental health stuff as well, Cheryl, Right. You can
Absolutely.
that,
Well, a
that's
lot of
kind
the
of like
things
your concentration too.
within the gut, right? So like our B vitamins, I think they get taken for granted, right? They are, precursors and to our neurotransmitters, right? And our neurotransmitters, the ones that we need for our mood stabilization, and norepinephrine, serotonin, dopamine, right? The B vitamins are like a foundation for that, and then protein, right? That's another one, because when protein breaks down, it turns into amino acids, and there's a bunch of different amino acids, right, that have different mechanisms within the body. Our bodies are amazing vessels that can heal themselves, but it needs support, right? It can't just have one thing and then forget about it. It's kind of like the car, right? You get the oil fixed, but there's all these other things that need to be done. It's only going to work so good.
Yep.
It's funny. I've spent a lot of time with Karin lately, and I'm learning about all the different connections between movement and breathing. And just, I was saying earlier, like, your ribs start here. Like, you guys think that. Regular people think your ribs are down here. And then, like, they don't even make the connection that your ribs basically go up to your clavicle. And now you're talking about all this nutrition stuff. And oh my God, my mind is blown. Because it's like all this other stuff I don't really know and understand. That's also super interconnected. Wow.
Yeah, I see. And then there's so much.
Pretty cool, right?
Oh, it's fascinating. It's so unbelievably fascinating. And I keep saying to Karin, like, again, for most regular people, I love to play sports. I golf. I play in a wiffle ball league. I love to be outside. I hate to be in pain. And we've talked so much about breathing, and I figured out so many things I've been doing wrong. And now to talk to you, it's like, oh, geez, you're saying so many things that, like, we're going to have to probably sit down one of these days and talk. Because holy Christmas.
Yeah,
There's a whole other added element to this stuff.
Well, too, it's like you want to give people have so much potential to be able to help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. Like, sometimes I feel like they don't want you to help yourself. I don't want to say they don't want you to help yourself, but it's like you really can't
nobody
make
makes money when you're helping yourself.
Yeah,
let's
you
be
well,
honest.
it's like all the things we focus on, and in the media and stuff. Let's just focus on the tools that we already have, that are innate gifts that we just don't use. We just don't, unless somebody's like, oh, just as something as my sister, because sometimes, like, just seeing my sister sometimes is a trigger for me to, like, just try to fix my posture or the way I'm doing something, like, because we all overeat and stuff occasionally. I'm not, believe me, I am not an enlightened, perfect person in any way. I love food. Anyone that knows me knows that about me. I have always struggled with eating in response to an emotion. We come from an Italian family. Eating is my language, right? That is just how I get down. And there are times I overeat, and when I do, my stomach is bloated, and it's not because, my stomach acid is too low. It's because I overate. But, it immediately can just change your posture, can change your breathing. And it's like, people do that all the time. Like, I have some clients that come and they don't want to do it, but they're salespeople, they're traveling, and they're entertaining people, they have contracts or whatever, however, and it's like to help them navigate, or to just give them a basic tool as, okay, I need you to be intentional before you go into that meeting and take some deep breaths and say, okay, well, what can I eat that's going to be satisfying versus just a bunch of crap because, I want to look good so I can get this contract. And then when you're done, kind of just reevaluate and take a few deep breaths and just get yourself to kind of, be back to where you were. Like, that's such a great piece of advice. I don't know. I think it is just, people say, oh, just breathe, but it's really being intentional.
Yeah. It's not even about the kumbaya breathing type of thing. Cause I think a lot of people are thinking like, oh, just got to breathe or whatever. No, I'm
tension.
I'm not talking about it like that.
Right.
Although you could do that, but that's not I'm actually talking about it from a more like the biomechanics of it, the actual movement of it. So somebody that has a problem with that, that's not addressing that and is still doing their breathing drills or they're just, kumbaya stuff. I shouldn't be saying it like that, but do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what
Okay.
you mean.
That is different. So imagine if you are still stuck, right? And you're tight and all of that stuff, your thing going on, and you're taking breaths in, but they're not the quality ones that you want, then you can be adding to your demise, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah.
To some extent. I don't want to make it sound so bad, but do you know what I mean? Like,
as a person who
distinguish the two.
I had a heart attack, Cheryl.
Oh, wow.
3 years ago. I'm 100% fine and recovered. I was on a whole bunch of medications. Now I'm only on a few, and they're all kind of going down in potency. But I'll tell you, and I mean, Karin knows the story. I had it, and about 3 weeks later, I went to the doctor finally. I thought I just had like shortness of breath. I had like a weird feeling across my chest, more to the right than the left, and so I was like, "Oh, that's not a heart attack." Yeah. And it got to the point where I knew. I'll tell you exactly the day. It was Thanksgiving of 2022. It was approximately 3 weeks after I had had a heart attack. We had a catered Thanksgiving meal here, and it smelled delicious. And I took about 2 bites, and I could not eat. And by evening, everybody had dessert, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll eat later. And instead, I started pacing the house. And it was at that point where I was like, I'm not breathing. I'm not fully taking breaths here. I really do. I almost started to even feel like a little lightheaded. And I was like, I'm not getting all the oxygen. Like I could tell, to the point where I woke up my wife at 6 a.m. and I said, hey, you got to take me to the hospital because I think I'm dying. But to struggle to breathe like that, I will tell you, it is not something I ever want to experience again. I've really gotten a hold of my health because I, again, I'm not a big pain guy, and to struggle to breathe to the point where I was like, I think I'm dying I mean, I'll never forget that.
I don't, first of all, I'm happy you're here.
Thank you.
Me too.
And,
of course.
The mind does not know the difference between, the actual present moment of you going through that versus you sharing this story with me right now. But with that being said, if you don't mind, I want to just, you kind of talk to that. Is you mentioned some signs, one of them being that you didn't want to eat, right? So that's the body's natural defense mechanism indicating, we have this autonomic nervous system that is kind of like the puppeteer that can turn on your rest and digest or your fight or flight, right? So sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. And if anyone has heard those terms, right? So in that case, you probably were in that stress response and physiologically, that's what was happening to your body. And it's, the natural body's just tense up, right? And it got to the point where it was so restricted. Again, I think thinking of that Coca-Cola can, right? You shake it up and it doesn't have anywhere to go. That's what was happening to you. So, wow. Happy that you were able to, that you had a partner that you could get someone to bring you to the hospital, right? Not everybody's so lucky. So
interesting that you picked up on that, because to me, I love Thanksgiving. I'm a stuffing guy.
Yeah.
And the fact that I could not, and like I said, I took a couple bites and I just was like, I'm so hungry and I'm not hungry. This is weird. That's when I really started to get hyper aware of maybe these things that I think might be a thing actually are a thing. And like I said, then by late at night, it became apparent that everything was wrong. But again, I think that's important too. As soon as I said it, you were like signs. I think people miss a lot of signs. I was in the hospital with a guy who had had a heart attack 3 months earlier. I was 3 weeks. He was 3 months. I left after a week and he was still there. And I don't think he was leaving anytime soon.
Especially too, like, holidays, I'm not generalizing, but, male, you're younger, men emotionally show up differently, or they're expected to show up differently than a woman. Right. And it's kind of like, it's suppressed, right? You had your family, it was the holidays. Oh, there's nothing wrong with me, or I'm just, so yeah.
Well, this has been so, man, I didn't think I could be any more enlightened on this podcast just from all the stuff. The guests that, it's funny, all the guests we've had on our podcast so far are all people who have basically talked about having experiences like my own.
Testimonials, pretty much.
Testimonials, and to have somebody on who's got like even more interesting information. We're definitely gonna have you on
again.
Yeah.
We'll have her on again because
I'm so blessed. We're so blessed as a family. I mean, I get along. I mean, I support her. She supports me. I think she's friggin' awesome. I know she thinks the same of me. And the two of us think we can cure the world, but
you know what? Listen, honestly, to that point, I do another podcast where we spend a lot of time talking about dealing with mental health, especially with men who don't like to show emotion, who don't like to cry. When you were talking about what happened to me, that actually got me misty-eyed. And I appreciate you talking about it and your sentiment that I'm still alive. So thank you.
Another thing I want to bring up about eating disorders. And people are it's an underserved population. There are a lot of men that struggle with eating disorders, and people would think that they would be gay in nature, but they come from they're straight. They struggle with eating disorders. So
I think it's important for everybody to have a support structure in their life.
Absolutely.
You need a couple of good people in your life that can tell you honestly when you are screwing up, when you are not taking something seriously, be it your health or any number of things. I teach broadcasting to students, and that's one of the things I tell them. You need a support system around you. You're trying to transition from one career into another. This is going to be difficult. And if the people around you aren't supportive, it's going to overwhelm you.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the people there that you need to support you. And your journey's going to end in failure. And I see it all the time. So again, when we talk about breathing and movement and nutrition, I think support and that the whole mental aspect is a whole other element to your fitness.
Yeah.
It is 100%, definitely. It is true. And
of course, in my wheelhouse, I'm thinking, and they may be eating in response to an emotion, right? Using food to give them that support, and then creating this monster of, poor quality food, maybe, right? Because they're not cooking for themselves, and then just different feelings that create these emotions that change the breathing and the functionality of their body, and lack desire of wanting to move like maybe they used to if they were an athlete or whatever. Anyways.
Yeah, we have a lot of examples we could use, huh, Cheryl?
Yeah. And even just the athlete too. When you think of like youth, right? I'm thinking of youth, especially boys. Is just not to talk about young men, but I feel like a lot of times in our society, we just came back from the food and nutrition conference from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And I went to one of the talks was very interesting, and they had brought up about males and how they are perceived to, it's okay for a guy to, eat a whole pizza, right? Or to not eat because they want to make weight on something. And then when they're done, they go out to the next restaurant and they just plow the buffet, like where, if a lady did that, it may
I
not
would do
be-
that, and I'm not a guy.
Whoa.
Sorry, not to interrupt you. I had to throw that in
but
there.
to
You're
get-
right. What you just said, Cheryl. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we were
Yeah.
brought up.
I would love to. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. though.
Where's my friend Monica? She'll confirm that.
So that's, I think, a lot of things can stem from that too, right? Like, I think there's certain behaviors that are looked at as norm, and they're not. We just think they are,
Yeah.
Yep.
God, I hate to end this, but
Yeah, I mean, geez, it's 8:00, Karen.
I know. We're doing a long one today.
Cheryl, how could somebody get in touch with you if they've got
Oh.
questions or they want to do a
Absolutely.
consultation about nutrition? And what's the
Mhm.
best way to get in touch with you?
So, well, for, Cheryl, SHERYL, at Healing Heart Nutrition. So I am located in South Windsor, Connecticut. I also have a little place in Manchester, Connecticut as well. So I do see virtual people. I also see them face to face. I accept most insurances now, which is kind of a cool thing. But you can Google Healing Heart Nutrition, and you'll find me in South Windsor, Connecticut.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me here. When I
gosh,
finally figured out my breathing was definitely inhibited when I couldn't get on the thing. I'm like,
Oh,
oh
I
my
bet,
God,
I
our
bet.
sister can't even get on her own podcast.
That is so
Oh,
funny.
sorry.
We started this episode off with a tribute to your dad, and we were going to end it the same way. So I'm glad that you're here for it. I don't know if you want to say anything here as we get ready to wrap things up, but
Well, my sister knows. So my sister and my mother are very fussy, and me and my dad, we just always cooked. He's the one that gave me the love of food. We just it was just something that we had, that we were connected to. And there's a lot of things I could say about my father. He was a lot of fun. He's a great person. I wish I could have met him. He would have really liked you, because my sister likes you. And he was just a great guy. And he taught me the love of food, and that, food can be a blessing and a curse at the same time, Dad. You taught me that. But the Sunday dinners, that was his thing. He always wanted to have Sunday dinner. And we'd be eating Sunday dinner, and then at the table, he'd be asking what we're going to have for next Sunday. That was just the type of guy he was. And
Yeah. This man used to, I swear to God, like in
Love him.
holidays,
Miss
like
him, dear.
Christmas, he'd be like, "Oh, what are we going to have for the Super Bowl?" I'm
Yep.
like, "Dad, we didn't get to Christmas yet."
Oh, well, I'm sorry for both of your loss. I'm looking on the 3-year anniversary. But I know that was important to you. I figured,
Well, thank you for doing
I'm
that.
glad we got a chance to do that and to honor your dad and to have his daughters blowing my mind here with
Probably laughing at us, Karen.
amazing information. Oh, I wish she was here to laugh at you guys then.
Oh, for sure. He would definitely have
Believe
something
me.
smart to say
He-
after he stopped
like I
complaining
said,
about the Yankees for losing. Dumb
we are
bombs. Right? Could you
so-
say, right, Joe? Could you hear him?
Of course. I mean, I just we're really blessed to have we're close, and he didn't suffer, so
Definitely.
we're blessed.
All right, Cheryl, I am going to definitely drop your information in that comment
Yes.
section so
Yes.
people have a way.
And thank you. I feel like I want to give you a hug, Joe. So this is what I do. Or I go like this to my patients. I go butter tie flaps. You ever see
love
the
it.
those? They release serotonin. So
Oh, good.
I offer
how
that
awesome
to
is
you.
that?
I
Yeah.
need a couple more for you.
Right
I
on.
like that.
So what do I do now? Do I touch anything? Can I X out? Like
I'm gonna pop you off the screen.
Good,
And you can X out, and we're gonna end the show.
All right. Well, so great meeting you. And Karen,
You
I'll
too.
see you soon.
All right, Cheryl, have a good one. Thanks again for
right.
coming on.
Cheryl, thank you so much. Yes, she was awesome, wasn't she? That was, oh my God.
Yeah,
Again,
that was good.
I always say, you don't know what you don't know.
I agree. I mean, me too. I'm still learning more things. Always going to keep learning.
It is so fascinating. Karen, how could people get in touch with you?
Oh, well, you can reach me on my website, revoltandmove.com/get-started. or you can just email me at Karen@revoltandmove.com. Be happy to connect with you.
I'm not trying to tell you what to do, people. I would hit her up, and I would hit Cheryl up. It's important. It's your health. You got to take it seriously. And I'm telling you, the stuff you'll learn from these two in just a short amount of time, and you'll be able to help yourself a little bit. And I don't think there's anything better than taking control of your own health. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of the Movement Boss podcast. For the Movement Boss herself, Karin Ravalese, I'm Joe Aguirre. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Good night, everyone.